memorable experiences that we've had, like with veterans in our family, or experiences like we've had with like military processions, and that could be, um, airplane shows. It could be going on a boat. For example, when I was younger, my siblings and I had a chance to tour one of the Navy ships in San Diego. San Diego's a military town, and one of my uncles, Uncle Duke, he was in the Navy, and we were able to go on board one of the Navy ships and do a tour. And it was a very interesting experience, very much so stood out. And then also I remember, just how much fun I guess maybe people like to have as far as parties and family gatherings. Back in the day, we used to always be at my Uncle Duke's house. And his military Navy friends used to always be there having a really, really great time. So yeah, shout out to all the veterans out there. Special shout out to the ones in my family. We'll go to you, Chase.
I currently don't have an experience that I could share. I don't know. Well, yeah.
Okay. Claudia, I know you said your chat is not working. Okay, perfect. You put it in the chat. Um, I had the chance to visit Pearl Harbor when I visited Honolulu last year. The memorable, it says, the memorial felt very peaceful, as well as you can sense the spirits buried in the ocean. Rest in peace to those lost there. Manuel Becerra, feel free, folks who are not able to come off mute, feel free to put your responses in the chat and I can read them from there. Manuel, feel free to come off mute when you're ready. I'm gonna read Carla's response. My husband is a veteran Marine who served in Iraq, and my bro is a veteran in the Navy. So he would take us to go see the air shows in Miramar. Yes, yes. That was great. He has taken me to his boat once, but I always felt claustrophobic in those ships. Yes, it's an interesting experience for sure. Thanks for sharing, Carla. Sergio, Saldana.
Yeah, so I remember seeing over my house some like fire jets flying over. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Sergio. We'll go to you, Jorge Ramirez. Awesome. I see you put it in the chat. My aunt serves in the army, and I remember my grandmother showing us her service uniform when going through her closet. My aunt doesn't like talking about her time in the service, though, so I was unaware she served for a long time. Yeah, sometimes some heavy memories come with serving in the military. Um, yeah, thanks for sharing. We'll go to you, Issy.
Um, my stepdad was a firefighter, so not exactly a veteran, but I remember enjoying going to the parades where our community would kind of come out and support the volunteer firefighter department.
Yes, that is definitely a front line. Yeah, our first responders are definitely important. Thank you so much for sharing, Issy. Maya, we'll go to you.
Okay. I've had a lot of people in my family serve in the military, mostly in the army. My dad was in the army. My grandpa was a chaplain in the army his entire career. And my mom now serves as a nurse practitioner at the VA hospital in San Diego. So she spent her entire career caring for veterans.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Maya. Carla, I think you shared already. We'll go to you, Entree.
I don't have an experience, no nobody that I know in my family serves in the army. I don't know um what to share about.
It's okay, Andre. Some folks don't necessarily have a direct experience, but yeah, thank you for sharing. Um, Julian, Julian Vargas, feel free to put your response in the chat. We'll go to Rebecca.
Hi. So, my grandfather served in the military. It's not something that I ever got to talk to him about because he passed away when I was really young. But I remember my grandmother kind of mentioning that he didn't really like talking about it, that, it was like a not a great experience for him.
Thank you for sharing, Rebecca. Jorge Mateo, and then we'll go to Yael Macias.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, well, I remember one of my uncles. He was he was traveling. I didn't know where he was most of the time, but he had a twin. And then he left when he was like 20, right after high school. And then after 5 years, he he told his brother to that there was an opportunity for to work as a welder. So they both went. And I remember my uncle, the welder, he was there for about 7 to 8 years. My other uncle, he was there for almost 15 years. I didn't know where they went, but I remember they were traveling a lot, and they were basically there for like 6, 8, maybe 9 months. They're coming back for 1, 2 months, and that was it. That was their routine.
Thank you for sharing, Jorge. And I see Yael put the response in the chat. I've been to the USS Midway in San Diego a couple of times. It is a very interesting tour, the ship, and get to experience those spaces where Navy members would spend time. I like that there's always veterans who volunteer there and talk about their experiences from when they served. Yes, thanks for sharing, Yael. We'll go to Isaac, Jonathan, and then Patty.
Hello. I did get a chance to visit Pearl Harbor. That was definitely an interesting experience. You do get a lot of like, I guess, like senses of, the people that passed away there. Definitely an eerie experience.
Yes, it's an interesting experience to like go to places where war happened, you know. Um, I spent some time in DC, right? And there's interesting places that you'll find yourself and they're like, oh, this is where's situations when the Civil War happened. You're like, wait a minute, right here? Wow. For folks that just joined, we're just giving experiences related to like veterans, experiences we've had, like touring veteran sites or, acknowledging veterans in our family. Uh, let's go to Jonathan. Jonathan,
Uh, Hello. I
yeah.
don't have any experiences with veterans, nor do I have any family members, but I my neighborhood is kind of like uh surrounded by veterans, I guess. So I mean that's about it. I haven't talked to them, but it's just like they are kind of patriotic, I guess. They're like their homes, they have like they like to show it off, I guess.
Their
But
flag and yeah.
yeah, that's about it though.
Thank you for sharing, Jonathan. We'll go to you, Patty.
Hi, an experience I have with a veteran is probably um I do work at a school where we have a veteran who comes and volunteers. His name's Mr. Harold, and he's been around for quite a while. A lot of like everyone, all the teachers know him, the students know him very well. And for Veterans Day, he usually comes over and goes around classrooms to talk about, what is Veterans Day. And he does have like two big tortoises that he brings around and lets the kids pet and stuff. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really awesome. Well, shout out to all the veterans, folks that served, and also the folks who are part of families who served. 'Cause sometimes it's like you're serving too, right? But yeah, shout out to all the vets, and again, I hope you all enjoyed your week off last week. Today, we're just going to be talking a little bit about some of the things that I'll be looking for in your final writing assignments. Um, and then we'll open it up for any questions and answers that folks may have in preparation for your writing assignments. So I'll go through our lecture and then I'll present the deliverables that I'll be looking for with the final assignment. And then I'll again open it up for questions and answers. Let's see. So, what I want you all to be thinking about is your final writing assignment. We are coming to the end of the semester. I can't believe how fast this semester has gone by. Thumbs up if you think this semester has gone by pretty fast. Okay, and then thumbs up now if you feel like it couldn't go by fast enough. All right, cool, cool. Well, with that being said, I want you all to start thinking about your final writing assignment. I really appreciate the work that you all put into your midterm assignment, which was really your outline for your writing assignment. And I want you to really leverage your midterm presentations to support your writing assignment component to your project. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about diagramming and site analysis. You definitely want to have some clarity on the components of your site that are most important. And we'll talk about those areas as it pertains to your final. As you're looking through this, I want you to be mindful that this is opportunity for some cross-pollination. You've done a lot of work in this course already in preparation for your final writing assignment, and you can pull in some of the diagrams, visuals, sketches that you may have from your studio projects to support your written assignment here in this course. So I want you to think about that as we're going through today's lecture. Um, so again, diagramming is a really great opportunity to help understand the different components of your site that are most important to, let's say, your stakeholders that are going to be using the site. And so you may have diagrams in your project development for your studios, but I also want you to think about this in context of visuals that you may prepare for your target audience in context of your report writing, right? So incorporating some of the visuals into your written report to again support what you're writing in your proposal is going to be a great opportunity. And so understanding the different diagrams and different programs that you'll have on your site visually, I think is a really great thing to consider. This quick video will give you some examples of ways that you can explain some of the programs that you have on your site using diagramming and infographics. So we'll watch this video real quick and then we'll come back.
Today, we're taking a look at 2 diagrams that I created solely using Adobe Illustrator. Now, these diagrams are not only going to be really easy and simple to make, but they're very versatile in that you can use it for many different things like design, programming, concept ideas, timelines, and many more. Now, one of the great reasons for putting a diagram like this together is that it allows you to take something that would normally be done verbally or in a way that isn't all that captivating visually, to do so and take it and make this into a really captivating idea that can not only stand alone, but it can be something that you don't even need to be there to express that idea. So with that said, let's take a look at how to create some of those diagrams and what you can do to get started on them. What's going on, everybody? My name is Carter, and here we talk and teach about all things landscape architecture and urban design. So if that's of interest, be sure to check out my channel for tons of new content and content that exists on the subject. But that said, the things you're going to need to create a diagram like this are Illustrator and some vector images. Now, for those of you who don't know what a vector is or what they are, they're commonly referred to as an SVG file. Now, an SVG file just means that it is an image that is a scalable vector graphic. Now, why am I bringing up these vector images? Well, that's what Illustrator likes to work in the most, and what you'll find when you're working through it, that they are all SVG files. This is one of the most fundamental differences between Illustrator and, say, Adobe Photoshop. And that's because Illustrator likes to use graphic organizations like SVGs, whereas in Photoshop, you're using PNGs and JPEGs. So if you were to pull up the 2 side by side and draw a line or import an image, as you zoom in, you'll notice that on Photoshop, the image will start to get pixelated because Photoshop works primarily in pixels, whereas if you were in Illustrator, as you zoom in, you can see that regardless of what you do, those images will always be nice and clean. Which is why Illustrator is the preferred option for most people who are doing graphic design and those sort of things, because down the road, if you need to scale it, shrink it, whatever you need to do, it's always going to keep that nice attribute and clean edges. So to put a long story short, you want to make sure that you're using vector images or finding some off the internet. And you can convert your own PNGs or JPEGs into an SVG as well. I'll put all the links to some of the free websites, paid websites, and ways you can transfer a JPEG or PNG in the description below. But there's a lot of great free options out there, and honestly, for landscape and what we're doing graphically, the free options are going to be absolutely everything you're going to need. But enough with that, let's take a look at how I created the first graphic. So head on over to Illustrator and create a new file in a format that you think is going to best represent what you want to show. For today's purposes, I'm going to be showing it in an 11 by 17 format, which is a really common format to use for these type of things. So for this drawing, I decided to create a design strategy that will consist of 4 main themes that will end up as these kind of wavelengths that intertwine to show that these things are connected. But by doing the wavelength separately, it gives you the option to single out each strategy and see what lives on each individual wavelength. So what I'm doing to start off is I'm using the pen tool and drawing 4 straight lines that are equally spaced apart, and then I'm going to duplicate it to add to the other side as our start and our finish line. Additionally, I've already went ahead and picked out a color palette that I plan on using here, and it's going to help create a theme and organize the entire diagram and drawing here. Additionally here, it's a good idea to kind of give this a good width and a good amount of space, as we're going to be dropping some vectors over and along the wavelength as we go down the road. Once you have that all set, we're going to use the curvature tool, and while holding shift, we're going to click in some points randomly as we go across the page. Now make sure when you're doing this to make them really close together at the start and the finish. We're going to want to do this so that closer to the start and the end, that they keep kind of this nice straight or very low amount of curve to it. Then with the direct selection tool, we're going to click each wavelength and begin to stretch the anchors up and down to start making a wavelength. Make sure that when you're doing this, you're selecting the anchor, so that way it doesn't get all wonky on you and it gets very confusing if you're not selecting it from the point of origin, which is known as the anchor in Illustrator. So take your time on this and fine tune till you kind of find something that you like, and then you're going to have the first part of this diagram done. It's a good idea to make sure that they're weaving together and that there's not too many curves to it. It's very gentle, very broad, but still has enough space to kind of add your vector graphics in. Next, we're going to add some text that will correspond to each wavelength theme that we are using. For today, I'm going to be using nature, access, program, and play. Then from here comes the fun part. Now we can start to drop in some of those vectors that we picked out and start to place them along our wavelength. The idea here is that they don't necessarily need to be a one-to-one exact replica of what we're going for. They just need to kind of show a general idea and a general theme to what we're going for to help prove and provide information on the concept or the drawing down the road. So begin to fill this out however you like. Keep some good rhythm and spacing to it and play around with the sizing till you start to kind of find a format that you can repeat and like. Then we're going to repeat this process again with all of the other wavelengths. After doing a little bit more tweaking and rearranging, you're going to end up with something that looks more or less like this. And remember, keep in mind that it doesn't need to be visually cluttered. We're just trying to convey the idea and the principle behind the theme or the idea behind each concept or in this diagram. Now the last step is really where it starts to come together, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding some text to the bottom half of this graphic to start and tell a story of more of the specific things that are happening in your design. So write down some of your ideas that you're thinking of, or maybe you already have some ideas that you plan on using in your design. You want to write those down that kind of correlate to each category. Now to bring this graphic a little bit further together, I decided to give a nice skinny little rectangle that will be color oriented to where it is on the wavelength, and then when you're reading or looking through this graphic, you're going to understand this applies to that and this applies to this. So some ideas here are things like habitat restoration, play amenities, community goals, whatever it is that you think is going to show up in your drawing down the line or already will show up in your drawings, include them here. The diagram will end up being a really great preview for what's to come in your project, especially in a presentation, and it's also a really great graphic to fall back on when you're trying to explain things in the beginning or either in the end during critic phases. But essentially, this is what that diagram could look like, and it's just one of the many different routes you could go with this specific graphic. You could very easily mimic this type of graphic for something like a timeline or site history. It's really easy to do in that way as well. So now let's try this diagram in a completely different way that has something similar but is represented maybe in a different way with some different ideas. So for this one, I'm going to go with something that can explain the main ideas to your project instead of the main themes that will show up in your project. So this one is going to be kind of a revolving circle that revolves around these 4 idea infographics. And the circle is going to be kind of the origin or the creation of our design, but as they separate and leave the web, we're trying to say that they're separate in their own way, and these are these different entities in your design. So to start, we are creating a small circle with the ellipse tool, which is located where the rectangle tool is, or if you can't find it, just hit L on the keyboard and we'll bring that up. To make sure that it's a perfect circle, just be holding Shift as you are creating your accents. Then we're going to offset this a few times. To do this, head on over to the object and then select Path, and then select Offset Path. Then with the amount selected, scroll on your mouse and you can see as you move it, the offset will decrease or increase. In our case, we're going to be doing this a few different times, and we're going to want to increase the amount of the offset by a little bit each time we do this. So that way at the end of this, we're going to have 4 visible rings. If you're not seeing any rings, then just make sure that your stroke is on, and in our case, it's going to be on white with a width of somewhere around 2 points. Once you have that all squared away, you're going to want to use the pen tool, and we're going to be making a line through the horizontal and the vertical of our object, so it will end up looking kind of like a bullseye. Then we're going to click and drag to select the entire object, and then head on over to the Shape Builder tool. This is going to be a really versatile tool in Illustrator. It kind of deserves its own video in its own right, but it essentially allows you to kind of separate ideas and shapes and also delete them as well. Now in our case, the reason why we drew those two lines overlapped through the entire circle is so that we could delete the top right edge here. So if you notice, as you hold Alt, your cursor will have a minus sign next to it. You can then click on it and then fill in the shape and it will delete it out. So once you have that done, you're going to end up with a 3/4 pie shape and you'll be ready to move on to the next step. Next, we're going to turn this smallest circle here back to white, and then we're going to use the pen tool and draw in some thin lines to designate different part of those idea arcs. Our first line is going to go to the end of the circle, and then we're going to follow up each additional line going to the smaller circle until we are finished. Next, we're going to add some small circle callouts that are going to have a corresponding color that will relate to our design idea in the infographic. Then we're going to create a guide for the arrays by offsetting our interior circle to where those points lie on that diagram. Then it gets a little bit tricky, but we're going to trace around that circle so we have the first part of the array. So like I said, we're going to repeat this process for all the different callouts, and then we'll have a circle that is starting to look like this. Then we're going to make some larger circles on the right side of the page that will be the end line to that array on the left, and we'll connect it with some text. So under that main line that connects back to the array, we're going to type in a little bit of text to help guide what the infographic is and what it's about. And then additionally, in the arrays, we're going to add some text that support the sub ideas to the main infographic or the main part of your design. So for the text in the arrays, we want to make sure that we're selecting all of our paths we drew first and copying and pasting them in place. Then we're going to select the Type in Path tool, which is part of the text toolbar, and then we can add in our supporting ideas. We can flip the text orientation by going to Type, Type on Path, click Type on Path Options, and then we can click Flip Icon. Lastly, all that's going to be left to do here is to bring in some vectors and make some little infographics that will tie back to your main ideas. Additionally here, if you wanted to, you could drop in some of your concepts that you've been working on or something along those lines that pertains to your design. But for me, I'm going to be going with kind of a collage style that will sort of represent or allude to some of my ideas. So I'm really just kind of playing around with the vectors that I have. I'm moving things around. I'm changing the scale and the size of things to try and give an idea to what the main thing about this infographic is that pertains back to the idea. So kind of as I'm going through and doing this, I'm thinking about, what are the key elements to each idea? And I'm trying to make them be the focus, or, maybe they have an abundance or they're larger so that they're shown as more important in that smaller infographic. So kind of play around with this. It's a little bit of trial and error, but once you kind of find a style that you like and are excited about, repeat this process and you'll end up looking like this. The last thing we need to do to complete this diagram is to just finish connecting the lines so that we have our final bridge between the infographics and the arrays. So like I said before, I think these two diagrams are really versatile. They can be used in a couple different ways, and I really like the way they came out. I could definitely see myself, if I was in school, as using these towards the beginning of a project for explaining some key ideas for a concept, or maybe some site analysis, or a timeline. I think they're really great options for that, and are a really nice kind of title slide image just to showcase what's to come in your drawings. But of course, there's lots of other interpretations to take from these designs too. So if any of you guys go through and try to make some of these diagrams and delve away from what we did today, be sure to share me that on Instagram. I'd love to see some of your guys' creations and share it out as well. But
All right. So, where this is most relevant for your final project is your public facing diagram that really communicates to your target demographic group, like let's say the different community stakeholders, particularly the community engagement, like the person in this video was mentioning. You may have to present information in a way that's comprehensive, and it may not be available for you to, interpret it for someone. So you want to have it visual, It needs to be universally understood. So as many images as possible is helpful. And so this in context of your final, the goal is to create a flow chart to communicate a timeline for engagement for your design, right? Throughout this course this semester, we've been talking a lot about community engagement. And so you want to have a visual flow chart of your community engagement process that will be public facing. So in addition to the written assignment, you want to have that visual, okay? Um, this here is just some examples of, again, programming your site design, communicating what someone can expect on your site, right? Whether it be social economic impacts. So when you're thinking of your written proposal, I'll be looking for some of these components to be explained. And again, you can have pictures to support it, right? So socioeconomic impact related to your site, the different ways that your site will create active lifestyle opportunities, whether it's a pool, whether it's active living in regards to working out or going for walks, walkability, right? And then also looking at the different components that you're addressing. Your site may be addressing a local issue like homelessness or addressing a wildlife habitat component for a local flora or fauna, right? So really looking at those things and in your written report, writing about that, but also providing, visuals to support the writing, diagrams and visuals. So again, this is an example of the the vector usage that you saw in the video. This is something that I was able to do. So if I can do it, I'm sure all of you all can. But again, you want to do some type of flow chart or visual for your community engagement process. And it can be a timeline. It could be, again, communicating different programmatic aspects of your site and different components that you want to spell out based off of the community's needs or other stakeholders' needs or interests. So there is going to be a component of it where you're going to have to do a lot of background context in regards to the existing site, right? Understanding site and scale. We talked a lot about that this semester, so I definitely want you all to communicate that. So different site analysis components in regards to the demographic breakdown of the community, and other aspects that you want to highlight. Here in this example, this is a residential site build. But again, this example shows the different site components, the different um, the size of the site, right? The type of material that's going to be used, the location. And so you want to again have different aspects of your site spelled out in regards to demographic breakdown. But also when you're talking about the different interventions, we talked about it this semester in regards to environmental interventions, economic interventions, right? And so you want to keep those consistent. These examples are showing the different interventions in context of the site in regards to topography and view, situations of natural lighting and windows, right? But again, in your context, it would be more landscape focused. This next example is talking about energy efficiency. So again, when we're talking about the different components of your site, you may be able to use, let's say, solar for power versus, having that be an added expense. Uh, so really looking at ways that your site is communicating the different needs. You want to spell that out in your written report. So what I want to do now, I want to pull up the assignment. Give me 1 second while I pull this up. My drive. Hmm, that is the problem. Wow. Okay. What I'm gonna do is have y'all go on break for about 10 minutes, and then we'll be back at 6:55. All right. So we are on break until 6:55. All right, all right. We are back. So I found what I was looking for. I prepared your final writing assignment. It looks like I had saved it to the wrong email. So it wasn't where I was looking for it, and I was like, oh wow, where is it? But let's go ahead and get into that. Let's see. Okay. So thank you for your patience. So the objective of your final project is to develop a comprehensive community engagement proposal that integrates the principles of narrative strategy, collective impact, and the social determinants of health, as we have been learning throughout this semester. This assignment, you will be able to articulate your studio project, how your studio project addresses community needs while proposing practical and inclusive solutions for your chosen project site. So, we definitely want to identify these different components throughout your final project. For example, stakeholders, types, and interests. Identify key stakeholders and their interests in the project. Um, in a written style, you definitely want to use your midterm to inform this. List stakeholders such as residents, community-based organization, local businesses, elected officials, and developers. Define their interests and how they align with your project goals. So the prompt that you really want to be responding to is who are the most important stakeholders in your project and what are their interests? So when we're talking about social economic considerations, that's one of the things that we've been discussing this semester. So that is something that you can bring out in your site, how it addresses your project or stimulates the local economy. Your project stimulates the local economy and supports equitable development. Also looking at identify economic opportunities and constraints within your project area, incorporating features like partnerships with local vendors or connectivity to transit and retail networks. Prompt, how will your project stimulate the local economy and what features align with these goals? We also talked a lot about environmental considerations this semester. So you want to evaluate your environmental factors influencing your project site, identify challenges such as endangered species, geographic constraints, or pollution, propose design solutions to address these considerations, and what are the key environmental considerations that your project must address, and how do they influence your design? And so a lot of this information you can look at in context of your research, right? There's components of your site that you're responding to your clients' wishes or different stakeholders' wishes. But with that being said, a lot of your research will help contextualize how you can respond to those interests because of your diligence, your expertise, right? And so there may be an approach that you would take as a result of your research that is aligned to your stakeholders' interests, right? So your research on environmental considerations, economic considerations, policy analysis, right? All those components are really going to inform your expertise and how you're able to achieve the desired interests of your different stakeholders. So again, looking at policy reports and analysis, objectives utilize policies and reports to support your strategy. This also can be any of the readings that you've read. So different design precedents, things that are working. But yeah, you want to research policies like the LA Sustainability Plan and community-led reports, integrate these resources into your community development strategy, prompt what research informs your strategy, and how does this shape your design and engagement approach, right? So we read a lot about community engagement in the design process this semester. So you definitely want to cite those references, whether they be articles or the book that we read this semester. Community engagement principles that you need to have. Objective is to apply narrative strategy. So understanding how people are treated differently based off of their lived experience. It could be based off of race. It could be based off of economic status. It could be based off of housing, right? So, but you really want to uplift the underserved or underrepresented components or stakeholder in your effort. You also want to identify ways that this effort is facilitating a collective impact way. So your work as a student, architectural student, the community-based organization that's collaborating with it. Maybe it's a local municipality that's supporting it, right? So you want to really spell out the collective impact um, that's represented in your project. And then also identify those social determinants of health, really looking at the ways that your project is aligned to the social determinants of health. And not only does it reflect the lived experiences of folks, but it also relates to the social determinants of health, like the built environment, like health, like education, right? And those economic opportunity, all of those different components of social determinants of health. So how do the principles of narrative strategy, collective impact, and social determinants of health shape your engagement plan? And lastly, you want to develop a comprehensive engagement plan. So yes, create a written proposal outlining your stakeholder management and base building strategy, your program design and enhancements, anticipated alignment of those policy efforts, and then data collection and analysis plan. Use clear, specific examples to demonstrate how your plan aligns with your community needs. And lastly, the visual is going to be that flow chart, right? That flow chart diagram. You want to visualize key engagement points in your project. It could also be the different programs of your site, but you also want to spell out the points of engagement for those programs, right? Again, you're not defining these things without community engagement. So your flow chart should identify to a community stakeholder how they can engage in some type of, informing your programs on your site or informing the different economic opportunities that will exist on the site. So your flow chart should look visually appealing, right, and comprehensive in a way that it can be understood without explanation. So you want to design a flow chart that illustrates how stakeholders' engagement methods and design interventions interact throughout your project lifecycle. So your project, the full project, your written proposal component should be 1,500 words to 2,000 words. So that's about 3 pages, which is not a lot, and you probably could do a lot more for this project. But it should address each section with specificity, integrating theoretical concepts and practical solutions that we've been learning in this course throughout the semester. And then your flowchart diagram is another deliverable. It should include visual representation of key engagement milestones. So I'll be looking to grade your final assignments on clarity and depth, demonstration of your thorough understanding of community needs and theoretical frameworks that we've learned this semester, your research integration. So again, how you've effectively incorporated the reading assignments, any policy reports or precedents that you think are most relevant to your project, your stakeholder engagement approach, how you are proposing inclusive and actionable strategies for engagement with your stakeholders throughout your project, creativity and feasibility presents innovative yet practical solutions to the social, economic, and environmental issues that you identify. And then your presentation of your written assignment that is clear, organized, and professional quality, particularly in relation to the flowchart, but also throughout your project, if you are adding photos, diagrams, that you're, marking them correctly, and that they're in alignment with what you're communicating in your written parts of your report. This assignment aims to prepare students for real-world challenges in landscape architecture by blending the theories that we learned, research, and practical application to achieve meaningful community impact. So I'm excited to see what you all come up with. This will be posted as your assignment on Canvas by the end of tonight. And we'll be wrapping up the semester. But I do want to open it up for any questions that folks may have. Again, leverage the work that you've already done. You've done the work already. You've already done your midterm. You know exactly what your issue area is, your different stakeholders that you've identified. Now you're going to write it out in a proposal format, and then again, create a supporting visual flow chart for your community engagement process. Thumbs up if you are excited to finish out the semester strong. Okay, there's a few thumbs, there's a few thumbs. Any questions coming up for anybody? Does this sound pretty comprehensive and clear? Is this aligned to what we've learned this semester? Thumbs up. I used to hate um getting assignments back in undergrad and grad school that weren't aligned to anything learned. So definitely let me know if that's happening. Carla, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, in regards to the flow chart, I have a question. Would you want the flow chart to convey the steps to which we would engage the stakeholders, or the flow chart as to which we would design the whole project, which includes engaging with the stakeholder and designing?
So what we're looking for is your engagement process.
Okay.
So it's strictly in relation to your engagement process, and that can be highlighted in how you're going to engage folks to inform your design, right? The different constraints in regards to environment or economic opportunity, like whatever you are trying to achieve on your site, you want to be mindful of the stakeholders that you plan to engage and provide a community engagement process proposal for that.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a really good question that Maya is proposing in the chat. Do we have to create a graphic using Illustrator or can we use different programs? Yes, you can use any program that you feel most comfortable with. I just want to ensure that, again, you create a flow chart that's visually appealing and easy to read for, again, a community stakeholder. Let's say like, your 5-year-old brother to your 95-year-old grandmother, right? You want it to be comprehensive. And then the second question that you have, does it necessarily have to be a flow chart or is a collage of elements elements okay? I'm okay with that. As far as like how you represent your flow chart, it can be a collage, it can be a diagram as we saw today, it can be uh 6 PowerPoint slides, but I prefer it to be very creative, and again, very comprehensive. And the thing is like it should be something that can be displayed, right? So like think of it as something that is easy to display at a community center or somewhere where folks can interact with it. So because this is the idea of this part of the project is that it's public facing. So this report it could be public facing as well, but it probably is going to be less accessible to understand than like a flow chart in context of like how you plan to engage stakeholders. And that could be a timeline. It could just be, uh, uh, yeah, it can be, you want to make sure that it's informed, like with the timeline, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, however long you think that engagement would take, but you want to have different touch points, uh, project kickoff, which talks about the overview of your project and the different components that, um, have been prioritized either through funding or whatever. And then say, checkpoint 2 is talking about the community events. Checkpoint three is engaging businesses for economic opportunity. Checkpoint four is environmental impact and wildlife components, right? You want to have those kind of elements that are reflective of the different components of your interventions. It should be a Word document. So the flow chart can be a PowerPoint presentation or an illustration or um, Photoshop, however you want to creatively visualize your flow chart. You can get as creative with that as you'd like, but your proposal should be a written proposal in Word document. 12-point font, 1,500 to 2,000 words. Any other questions coming up for folks? Cool deal. We'll be on the lookout for that to be posted tonight. I believe the end of this semester is kind of weird this year, but because I think our last day is the second. When is the last day for finals? What does anyone have their final schedule? Finals week is the 9th. Okay. Okay. So you'll have until the end of finals week to do your final. So if finals week is the 9th, that means you'll have until the Friday the 13th. Is that enough time for folks to get their final assignments completed and submitted? All right. All right. So be on the lookout for that posting by the end of tonight. And then you all will have some time. You know what, Maya? There are a couple of assignments that I have, and I haven't quite decided if I'm going to give another assignment yet. I know that it's been an interesting semester um, for all of us in general, just in the world today. And I do think that there might be one more assignment, but I am trying to keep the assignments lecture based versus give you more reading and research. All right. Any other questions? I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit in there, Isaac, for you to do for this course, but I definitely don't want to. I want to be mindful of the fact that some folks are working professional students, and there's a lot going on in the world today. There's just a lot. So, but yeah, we're wrapping up the semester. We are wrapping up the semester. Let's see. Let me pull this back up. So there's a few more slides that I want to walk through before we end for the day, but we may be ending a little bit early. Okay, so we talked a little bit about how you're prioritizing the different components of your site. Uh, Mapping, I love maps. And I'm not gonna hold you to it, but I think mapping is a component that you can incorporate into your project just so that there's a clarity on where your site is situated. And again, this may be in context of um neighborhood, region, right? Looking at the scale of your site, that would be a good area to put in a map to communicate your site context as far as the scale of it. Um, and I think especially because if it sits within a watershed or if it's in a region that's connecting regional transportation, infrastructure, or however your site is situated, I think mapping helps communicate that in a very visual way. And it helps like different stakeholders either understand, like we're talking about the scale or the geographic location.
Want to see what I did? Bye.
Say it again. Think you might need to go on mute, Sergio, or if you have a question, feel free to.
Oh, sorry, I had my mic on.
Okay, no worries. So let's watch this mapping video and we'll be right back.
Hello everyone, today we will learn that how you can create a custom map that you can use on your website or mobile application design. So for this purpose I have been using snazzymaps.com to create a map. Then we will bring the image to Adobe Illustrator to further editing the map, and then we will save the file, the vector file, and bring it to Adobe XD so that we can present the high quality resolution on our website. So how you can do this, go to snazzymaps.com and there is a tab create a style. So let me click on it. So on clicking create a style, you have different options. Okay, so let me choose default and apply style. So we have a default Google Map style there, you can see. So if you want this kind of a map, so first you have to decide that what kind of results you want so that we can go with the options to create something very similar. So if we want this kind of a result, let me go to the Snazzy Maps, and we have to make this gray area to white and the roads to a dark color, and we have to remove these labels and the labels on the road. Okay, so if I let us remove the labels first. So there is point of interest. I'm clicking on it and then all, and we have to turn off the visibility. Okay, so we have removed the markets and other important venues, the labels from the map. So now we have to remove the labels, the road labels. So there we have the road option. Let me go to all, and there we have to turn off the visibility. Okay, so we do not have to turn off the roads, we have to make the labels turned off. Okay, so when you will make a change to a specific field, there comes a dot.
This will indicate that you have made a change in this specific field. So if I go to this geometry and I turn this off and I turned it on back, so there comes a dot. So if I want to remove this dot, I have to click on this refresh or restore button so that it can go to the default settings. So only one thing left, that we have distributory. We have to look that what actually this label is meant for. So let us go to the administration labels and turn it off. No. Okay, so actually you have to look at what this label is meant for and in which category it is. It will fall, so you have to turn it off. So now what we have to do is we have to make this gray color to white. So there is a section that is landscape, and we have to go to the geometry, fill, and there we have the custom color. So okay, so let us make it to a white color. Okay, so now we have to make the roads to a dark color. So there is a section road, go to geometry, custom color, and let us make it a dark color. Okay, so what is left actually, so we have to turn on the parks and we have to assign this park a green color. Let's find the, okay, there is a section park. Now we have to turn it on, go to all, make it on. Okay, so if you want to change the color, you can simply change the fill color of it. I'm clicking on fill, custom color. Let us make it a little green, a custom green. Okay, so there we have the map. Now we have to save this map. So I'm clicking on this download image. So Snazzy Maps will allow you to download 8 images a day, and for this purpose you have to log in your account and then you can download 10 images a day. So I want 1000 by 1000 pixels. Okay, so this is the center. It is calculating 1000 by 1000 from this point, and we have to save the image with maximum resolution, the 3x. So I have to download the image. It will take some time, and we would be able to download the image. So then we will move this image to Adobe Illustrator, and then we will make some tweaks to it. We will add some labels and we can make other changes. And before making those changes, we have to convert this image to a vector file. And for that purpose, we will use the image trace option. So let me finish with this file. Okay, so there is a file. Let me bring this image to Adobe Illustrator. There we have the image. So if you have used the image trace option, you should be familiar that we have to try different options, and not every option will work for every single scenario, but some options will work for some scenarios. So we have to try. So in this specific scenario, we have to retain the green color and this black road color. So silhouette option will not work for it, sketched art will not work for it, black and white will not work, shades of gray will not work. Yes, 3 colors can work, 6 colors, 16 colors, low fidelity, high fidelity. So these options can work for it. So let us go with 3 colors first, and Let's see what are the results. Okay, so there we have the only thing that is creating some problem is the labels that we didn't removed. So these were the park labels. So if you do not want these labels, you have to remove them. You have to remove them from the style. Okay, so go to the park section. There we have the labels, and you have to turn off the labels. So then you will not get these labels on the map. So now what we can do is we can click on this and just click on the expand. Now we have to ungroup it, and now you can play with this map. You can create your own custom maps. So let us remove this section. You can remove this section, and for a very similar style that I have done here is what you have to do is you have to create a shape. So let me ungroup it. Let me copy this shape. Okay, let us move it to the other side. So if you want to play this on your map, you have to create a very own custom shape, and what you can do is you can just place it at the end of the road, assign it a similar color, and that's it. Okay, and for removing this road, what you can do is you can use different things. You can use this knife. Okay, so I just need to cut this road. So now you can remove this section from this section, or you can just use a pencil tool to modify a shape. So if I go from this point to this point, so what I can do is I have to do the same thing at this point. Okay, so this is how you can modify the shapes. You can use a pencil tool, or you can use a knife tool to modify the shapes, and then you can use this map on websites or on mobile applications. So how you can add the labels, just click on the text button, this text icon. So let us write here main boulevard. Okay, so let me change the typeface. So there we have the main boulevard. If you want to place this main boulevard, this label at this point, for example, so make it a little large so that everyone can understand. So actually you cannot add this kind of labels from the Sneezy maps. You have to add these labels by yourself. So let us make it bold. Okay, Poppins extra bold. Let me create outlines of it, and then we have to go to object, path, offset path, and there we can decide that what color you want to give to these labels. Okay, make it white. So this is how you can add the labels, and then you can move this to your website designs or to your mobile application design. So Snazzy Maps is very useful for getting the very accurate results, because at this point I have to represent the exact location of the hotel. So I cannot use a random map. So I have to create a map so that users can understand that where this hotel is located. So I just labeled the important venues, the important locations near to this location, so that people can easily understand. So if you are from Lahore, you are familiar that where is Main Boulevard Gulberg and where is the Liberty Market, so you can easily uh, uh, understand that where this hotel is located. So this is all for my side. This is how you can create custom maps, and you can save the image, you can make it, you can vectorize the image, and then you can edit the image. So hope this video would be very useful for you. See you in the next lesson. Thank you so much.
All right. So that was another cool video, just really giving you some additional resources to enhance your design proposals. This will allow, again, visual, uh, comprehensive information that helps folks understand how your site is situated, as well as the scale of your site. So, let me see, where is an example of, okay, yeah, it's coming. So this right here is another map that was used to communicate how a site was situated in context of where this design build was supposed to happen. It was in a fire-prone zone, so there was different site features. So again, this is probably not exactly what your project will look like, but with a map, you can show where your site is geographically, where it exists in a region, how it relates to certain site information, like whether it sits in a fire path, or how the sun flows on your site, or the wind, for example. But it also gives an opportunity, for example, to zoom into your site and provide context of how your site will be used. Different areas of your site may have different usage. This right here, again, is talking more about wind and how the site is impacted by fire, but your site can be more specific in regards to how it will be used, right? Having recreation components. And then this example shows how it shows different transit components, bike share components, different grocery stores. So again, using maps is very effective, especially when you're trying to convey to an audience that is familiar with the site in context of how they use it or may want to use it. Yeah. Any questions about leveraging maps to communicate your site components? All right. Just again, leveraging different insight of your site to communicate the different needs of your site. This example shows a layout. It shows the equipment that is going to be replaced, for example, in this uh, transformation project. Again, having visuals to talk about how your site currently exists, and then incorporating visuals of your proposed site changes is a really great way to communicate what your site will eventually look like. So again, this right here shows a before and then an after. With your projects, there may not be an after yet, but you can, incorporate from your design studio any renderings that you may have produced, any sketches. So if your site, has a before, and then you can have a side by side uh visual showing what you plan to do to that particular section of your site. Again, this is before and after examples. And then again, showing the different sketches that you may incorporate. Again, I am not requiring you to do this. What I'm hoping that you all are doing is incorporating any sketches that you have from your studio projects. So you may have done some sketches, you may have done some visuals for your projects. I want you to incorporate those, and these are examples of what that can look like. Pictures are very, very helpful and useful. So definitely use pictures. So these are just site pictures that were taken. This right here is what you've already done, right? You've done an outline of all of your components, your goals in regards to your site. Um, you've also identified the different stakeholders and then your proposed engagement outcomes. That's what you're going to be incorporating into your written component. But again, you've done a lot of this work already. You looked at the different strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities of your site in context of the social determinants of health. So again, this really is reflective of your midterm assignment. And you definitely want to leverage the framework that you pulled from your midterm assignment into your written assignment. So again, having a timeline is going to be important. I'm not worried about like any budget, unless that is something that you have insight on in context of your projects from your studio. There may be funding that the community partner is communicating, so you can communicate that. But I would like to see, just like we were talking about as far as your diagrams, the different ways that you plan to incorporate programs onto your site. So that could be economic opportunity programs and like how your designs will support that program, right? So there may be a landscape space set aside for farmers markets. There may be vendor retail space, right? In your site design. So really just looking at the ways that your interventions are going to be communicated in your site projects. So again, looking at the different collaboration, this is more of like along the lines of your collective impact and how you're communicating that. Again, you've done a lot of this in your midterm. Now you're going to be writing about it in your written proposals. Okay, so that really concludes the lecture for today. Um, I'm really again excited for how you all will incorporate everything that we've learned this semester into your final projects. Be on the lookout for that. I would say in the morning, I do want to add a couple of things to the document. You don't have any lecture responses today. I'm only going to post the final for today. So just be on the lookout for the final for today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week. But I will hang around for any folks that have any questions regarding the final project or any other questions regarding the course. But yeah, it's been real for this week. Again, welcome back. Really excited to finish the semester strong with you all and looking forward to getting y'all final assignments in.